The Jussie Smollett saga continues despite Smollett being found guilty of 5 of 6 felony disorderly conduct charges. His attorney says he plans to appeal. Now, the disorderly conduct charges are Class 4 felonies, carrying a sentence of up to 3 years in prison. For now, Smollett will remain free on bond as he awaits sentencing, which has not yet been scheduled. Meantime, there's more bad news for the Empire actor. The city of Chicago says it will continue to pursue its lawsuit against the actor to recuperate an estimated $130,000 in costs by the police department to investigate the hate hoax. And rightfully so. Chicago spent some 3,000 hours investigating it. Now, the White House did weigh in on Smollett's verdict. Here's what Press Secretary Jen Psaki had to say. Watch.
I would say that we respect the jury's decision. Lying to the police, particularly about something as heinous as a hate crime, is shameful. Instances of that need to be investigated fully, and those found guilty need to be punished. And false accusations divert valuable police resources away from important investigations. They make it harder for real victims to come forward and be believed.
So joining me now to break down what's next is attorney at the Bianchi Law Group, LLC, David Bruno. David, it's great to see you. So David, I'm sure you followed this case pretty closely. The evidence against Smollett was overwhelming, and the jury gave their verdict. They found him guilty of 5 of the disorderly conduct counts, felony, out of 6. That being said, his attorney came out and said they plan to appeal, and his attorney went on to say he's 100% confident that he'll be cleared by an appeals court on the charges that he staged a hate crime against himself. What legal avenue are they going to take? I mean, is this even possible?
Well, everyone has a right to appeal after a conviction. It's as of right. It's not a special appeal that Jussie Smollett gets. Every single person should appeal a conviction after a jury trial. But here they're going to make an argument that there was inconsistent verdicts. There was one not guilty that related to the second interview that was given. And I've heard this attorney come out and say because of the inconsistency between the 2 verdicts, he thinks that it's 100% coming back. I disagree. Juries, they get it, and they have to make individual assessments of individual accounts. They're the ones that heard all of the evidence. I can't say that that was an inconsistent verdict myself, but this is just another spin that Smollett is trying to put on this case. He did it in the beginning for his own personal gains. He did it to promote himself. He put this right in the front and center of our political debate, saying that these assailants, these people had MAGA hats on, red hats, and they were screaming racist and politically motivated insults to him. I mean, they put Chicago's police department on overtime. You mentioned it at the top, 300 hours. Approximately 1,800 hours of those was overtime paid by the taxpayers of Chicago. And they are going to go after that money just like Jussie Smollett was just convicted of this. And they deserve their money after what Jussie Smollett has been found guilty of.
Yeah, and you're so right. Obviously, they do have the right to appeal. That being said, I mean, is it the right thing to do? And again, the overwhelming facts in this case, it just seems so shameful, and so much time has already been wasted. And we talked about the police department. They're looking to get money back from Smollett, $130,000. This seems unusual. I haven't really heard of this before, but is this common? And what are the chances they'll actually recuperate the money?
Oh, sure. I mean, it's common when there's a harm that has happened to the taxpayers of Chicago. And now we know why. It was Jussie Smollett's false reporting. 5 counts. He's been convicted of it. And also on the civil case, there's a lower standard. There's a lower burden of proof than the proof beyond a reasonable doubt standard that we just had in his criminal case. So it's actually more likely that he would be found liable for the damages that Chicago is seeking in the civil case because of the lower standard of proof required in those civil cases.
Yeah, it's just so infuriating, as we pointed out, the 3,000 hours spent on this. And it's not just 3,000 hours were spent. You think when law enforcement is taking this serious and investigating it, that takes away their manpower to do other investigations and to help other people. So it wasn't just those hours, it was taking away from the community, which is pretty despicable. Some are wondering what's actually going to happen with Smollett. So he is facing up to 3 years behind bars. Some experts think he'll likely get less than a year in jail. Why is that?
Sure, it's because of the offense that he's been found guilty of. There's a statutory maximum for these particular offenses, and each of them are up to 3 years in prison. But he does not have much of a history. He does, in fact, have a something in his past from 2007, false impersonation, which I think you're going to hear in the sentencing proceeding because it's consistent with this false swearing or the false lying to police. Look, this conduct has to be deterred. And while it's only up to 3 years, I could see the sentencing judge, finding aggravating factors here, the use of the law enforcement agency for these, the overtime, the hours put in. And also, this really does deter true victims of crime for coming forward. I mean, there's a chilling effect on people that are actually victims, that are victimized, that need law enforcement's help, and prosecutors who need victims to be cooperative and tell the truth. And this type of case really damages some of the foundational beliefs and principles of our criminal justice system. And for those reasons, I believe the judge should take that into consideration when assessing this sentence. And I believe that Smollett should get some jail time for this.
Absolutely. Just think of all the division that this caused. And imagine, if they didn't have that surveillance video of them doing the rehearsal beforehand, the checks written out to the Osundario brothers, and all of that other evidence, then, people would maybe think, oh, this is, we live in a really terrible country with all these evil Trump supporters walking the streets of Chicago at 2 a.m. when it's like brutally cold outside in the negatives. I mean, that is not a country that people want to live in. So again, thank God for all of this evidence that came out to show us the truth. But again, it doesn't erase the harm. And there's some people out there that are still defending Jesse despite everything that's happened, including some folks who are suggesting that the police made this all up, which is pretty crazy. Well, David, we appreciate your legal expertise. Thank you so much for joining us.
Always a pleasure, Stephanie. You have a great day.
You too. Coming up next, we'll have